We're live on YouTube,
What's
hi
that?
guys. Hello
What is?
everyone.
Oh,
Welcome
there
to
we
Yes.
are.
episode 66 of the Three Body Problem. If you're watching us on YouTube, share the link with your friends. Share the link on Twitter and LinkedIn and wherever your friends hang out. Juanito, how is life in Washington, D.C.?
Weird. I try not to go outside, but I'm told that the government has shut down, and that I don't know. This is a weird city because I didn't live here. I haven't lived here for very long, so I've never really seen much like changes with administrations. But it's wild what things kind of go weird whenever something changes in the government. Because even if the rest of the country doesn't notice or would have no reason to tell, everybody hears like the mood changes, people's schedules change. You see people drinking at 9:30 in the morning. It's fun. It stays
We,
active.
we'll get to that in a second because I have that on the list for us to talk about. But I want to start with Costin. The last time we spoke, there was like all these crazy random airport shutdowns. You were caught up in the airport for hours. And I was kind of tracking this news and seeing how long does this take? Like, how long does this cleanup take? And suddenly I'm seeing like there's Munich airport shutdowns due to drone sightings. There's Scandinavian drone sightings popping up all around. So my question is this like a lot of Ryan conspiracy theorying about like drone sightings? Or like, are you guys under this in Europe, like watching the skies? Give me an update.
Ooh, that's a tough one because I mean in Europe you're living with the reality of things on our eastern front, so drones are a very kind of a real thing. Now in particular with these drones that were shutting down the airports in Denmark, Norway, whatever, the French actually managed to board a big shipping tanker that was suspected of actually hosting these drones. So the drones were actually coming in,
Oh,
flying around for a while, and then they were flying out over the sea and just disappearing. And now allegedly they were actually going back to this tanker, which is allegedly under, I don't know, Russian ownership, one of those phantom ships. So
that's
I
cool.
can say on one thing, since they boarded that tanker, there haven't been any drone sightings. So perhaps it was related. I was hoping for something more fun, like aliens, UAPs, UFOs, but sadly it seems they were maybe just Russian
I think
drones
this is a
paying us a
long
visit.
history of things going this way, of people hoping for more interesting things and then being disappointed by just how much of like UFO history and lore is like basically mildly covert operations or disinformation that just lives way beyond anything that the original authors
But
intended.
what do we think it is? I mean, drone sightings are not. I mean, people are physically seeing things. They shut down the Munich airport. 17 flights were canceled because of drone sightings. Like, it's real. What do we think is happening? Do we
Not
think there's
only
like some
that,
sort of
but
hybrid?
if you look at the photos, there are like some videos and photos where you can actually see the shape of those drones, and some people said they look like the Klingon warbirds from Star Trek because they have that shape
Some fucking
like something
nerds
like
out
this.
there said they look like Klingon
I
warships.
mean, this is like what you're familiar. If you're like me and the only thing you do is watch Star Trek 8 hours a day, then yeah, they look like Star Trek. I don't like the
Is that what you
Klingons.
do? Is that
Let
what
me
you
ask.
what you're up to?
That's
Let
how
me
I
ask
spend my
this.
university years. Yeah.
When I shared the link about the Scandinavians being worried about this threat and like Europeans all in a tizzy about drone sightings, the retort was someone is looking for funding for anti-drone technology. There's obviously
Mm,
somebody is
It's
building some
Miko.
anti-drone capabilities.
Miko Hipponen is out there pushing these drones, man.
So conspiracy
hey,
Ryan has
Miko.
a question. Are there real drone incursions? Are there people seeing things because they're reading the news and they see a thing and they believe it's a drone? Or what do we think is really happening?
They were like, for sure, they were drones and even like big drones. They were like massive. The only thing which is strange to me, so look, the drones, like the Shaheds that strike Ukraine cities every night, they don't have signaling lights. They don't have a green and a red light, so you don't accidentally collide into them. So this one was like super obvious, overly signaling. They, hey, we're here, like we're gonna come and fly around your airports. So please don't hit us and don't crash your jets into our little drones. So to me, that's like, I don't know, it's different. It seemed a bit different from what was happening in Ukraine and even in Romania. But perhaps they were like just part of a different strategy, which was to close the airports. By the way, in Russia, one of the biggest issues is whenever there's Ukrainian drones going in, they have to shut down the Sheremetyevo airport. So they have to shut down all sorts of different airports, which is
a little bit of payback.
Huge chaos. So this closing of airports is a huge chaos, as we can actually see in Europe with the cancellations from the last week. So perhaps they are part of some kind of hybrid war strategy targeting Europe. But one thing is for sure is since they boarded that tanker, there haven't been any new Klingon warbirds in our skies.
Is this a new part of our new reality? I was looking at images from Ukraine on the battlefield, and the big giant tanks now are fitted with like all these weird looking wires pitching out of it. It's
Nets.
like anti-drone mechanisms, nets and stuff to stop people from dropping
And
grenades into the
rubber
hatch.
things.
Crazy. The tanks are no longer fitted for speed and stealth. It's fitted for like just
Defense.
Defense is, and as I was looking at that and the drone sightings and all the drone incursions and NATO being called in to determine what to do with airport shutdowns, I'm wondering, is this just wartime activity, or this is like a new reality that all countries will face? I mean, is it something that you Romanians are worried about?
What's the difference? Forgive me for jumping in when I know you're asking Kosin a question, but I think what I want to add to that nuance is, what's the difference, right? Like, what is the difference? Because you can say the Europeans are not at war, but I don't think it feels that way in Europe necessarily. And
well, does it though? I mean, if you're in Western Europe, right? I mean, Kosin, do you feel like you're in the streets of Romania? Does it feel like Europe is at war? You're right next to Moldova. You share a border with Ukraine. People are flying to London and Paris and Italy, and it's just life as normal. Or maybe am I misreading it?
I have a bunch of friends working in different government institutions, and they all received some kind of paper, like an urgent paper last week, which said by tomorrow you need to submit your like military degree, your current qualifications, like the readiness for battle, like all this by tomorrow. And that's kind of unusual here. That's one thing. And we were joking, of course, with some of my friends. They were asking like, hey, by the way, if the war starts, which direction should be going? And I was saying, you're going the direction of the front because you're 30 years old. So there is a certain stress, like if you want, in the air. So people are a bit stressed for sure. We are not obviously having drones flying over Bucharest. We don't have them flying over any of the big cities here. So they're just like in remote areas, and they haven't yet caused any deaths like they did in Poland, for instance, or they haven't actually destroyed any buildings. So on that hand, like it's maybe a bit more relaxed, I guess is the word. But still, Europe is a very hot place at the moment, I think, and everyone is wondering what's next.
You feel it? You feel it like in your everyday life? How so?
The most obvious thing is since the war started, there's a lot of Ukrainian refugees in Romania. So there's a lot of cars on the streets with Ukrainian plates, a lot of them. It's mostly like expensive cars. I guess the rich people manage to get out somehow, and they're like driving their cars through Bucharest, Romania, and so on. So you see that. Then you see at the same time a lot of families here with children, like trying to get support. And of course, every evening in the news, on the TV, there's information about the new strikes, about the new people, like deaths, about the war. People like the government is kind of signaling the readiness for combat. We need to be prepared, ready for that. But the good news that we are part of NATO, so things like that. And the most visible to me and to everyone else are the prices. I mean, since the war started, the prices have spiked like by crazy amounts, maybe even doubled. Yeah, with like electricity prices, energy, fuel, things like that, everything has gone up. And now with the new government, they're increasing the VAT, they're increasing all sorts of things, and now they're thinking to increase the VAT again. So they want to increase it several times.
So people are feeling it in their pocketbooks. It's a very, very real thing that's happening.
Everyone is, yeah.
All right, well, that's a good segue to get to the news.
No.
You see why I'm right? Wasn't it better if they were Klingon warbirds? Do you see that?
Juanito,
I mean, I think that's a desire. Like, I think what you're speaking to may be, I think the psychology that goes into some of it. Like, it is desirable for it to be an alien incursion more so than just saying, oh, somebody's here fucking with us. Like what you mentioned about they having the lights and like the the airports, like they're not meant to be stealthy and actually blow shit up. They are meant to cause disruptions by virtue of their presence. And just because, you're not gonna keep landing the planes anyways and just be like, yeah, fuck it, right? Like it is what it is. At the same time, that I'm glad that that's not happening in Western Europe, but it's hard when you talk about this tanker being the sort of host for these drones. It's hard not to think about what the Israelis did in Iran recently, what the Ukrainians did in Russia relatively recently. I can't remember the name of the operation, but it's just this fucking fascinating thing where they could essentially blow up all these bombers just by, getting some stealthy deployment, right? You get a truck across the border, and then you get these drones out and cause insane levels of damage that you would not be able to do otherwise. I just want to, I didn't want to gloss over how things have changed, right? Like, to me, a DJI drone 5 years ago was like a stupid novelty. Not stupid, right? But like, I understood why photographers liked it. I understood why like videographers were in love with them. And like for people who like the outdoors and whatnot, it's neat. It's cool that you can use this thing and get sights of things that you couldn't before. And then people got into FPV drone races and those looked neat, right? Like new nerd sports sounds great. But it was all very novel and very toy Tinker Factory type stuff. And it has not been that long since that was the case. Since, like, I think I got a quadcopter, like, at some Black Friday during the pandemic, like, to build. The kit is still sitting somewhere over there. I never built it. But, like, I just want to note to what extent these things getting cheap and becoming ubiquitous has actually changed warfare. Like, not theoretically, not in some... you could do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, we're talking about actual insane wartime operations, war-changing operations taking place on the basis of these things being, I don't know, $100, $200, whatever the hell it is. It's an insane change in the asymmetry of the cost of war, of the impact you can have. Like what Ryan mentioned about tanks, right? Like, how expensive is a fucking tank? The idea that you have to refit these things just to keep safe from a $500 piece of, plastic that's going to run by and drop a grenade into it is insane. Like, I don't want us to gloss over that bit. Like, the airport stuff is inconvenient. I'm glad it's just inconvenience because, like, what we are seeing with drones now is fucking wild.
It is wild. I remember when I joined Bishop Fox, Andy Greenberg and I did a project where we were Bishop Fox was testing these drone defenses, like the most rudimentary things, a shotgun, a net shot out of like a little device. Right. We went on Amazon.com and find like all these anti-drone devices that were being sold. And we bought them all and tested, and we did like a whole video production showing. And at the time, the big thing, the local Phoenix News came in and did a piece because they were worried about people dropping contraband into prisons, and people like the idea of explosions and wartime activity wasn't even on the radar. It was disrupting commercial flights, dropping contraband into prisons, doing that kind of thing, and people were flagging it as a big giant risk now we have Mikko Hipponen leaving cybersecurity to go do anti-drone defenses. We have all these fiber optics lines. Like if you look at the battlefield and some of the video from the battlefield and you see these fiber optics lines everywhere, they're not just off-the-shelf drones as well. There are a lot of like custom-built things. We're hearing the Ukrainians have become the best at drone technology lately. So it's a new reality. I don't know where to take the discussion and try to find a cyber angle, but there's...
Well, so let me give you a couple of things, right? Like, for me, the big question here is essentially what would shift the asymmetry back, right? Like, we're talking costs, and costs... that's the true basis for how you're going to make a lot of these decisions out here. So if you're telling me that right now, Kostin in the last episode said something like, Romania's got it got X amount of missiles. I want to say it was like 30 some missiles. 21 missiles. Sorry, I overemphasized the war power of Romania. So you have 21 missiles. Each missile costs several $100,000 to take out a drone. Right. So not only are you talking about an insane cost disparity, but also you're diminishing the preparedness of the country for bigger threats. So the money, the cost asymmetry is making far bigger determinations about what you do with this. So then my question becomes, what is the appropriate response that isn't a missile, right? Like, we didn't create missiles in order to take out drones. So the question, we were talking about nets, and we were talking about, there's expectations and hopes with electronic warfare at certain points, but that clearly isn't quite panning out, right? Like, a lot of the new, more, with all this AI stuff, the hope is that you can increase the autonomy of what a drone can do, even if it's being jammed, even if it's being, you can't directly communicate with it. So that's not necessarily going to be it. You're not going to fucking EMP the whole fucking place. So I do think that there is room for, I'm looking at the market going, all right, poke, do something, right? Like, the market, what exactly are you going to do that is going to be an appropriate response that isn't $100,000 to $100 for the solution, right? Even if it's $10,000 to $100, we'll take it, but not $100,000. So, like, what exactly do we pull out here that is an appropriate response to a drone? Yeah,
we're going to deal with a future where there's like laser technology taking this stuff out and all of that stuff, right? I mean, we're very early in, yeah.
So the earliest
just
computer games.
A swarm of cheaper drones that take out the bigger, a bit more expensive.
It's a race
drone.
to the bottom, right? A race to cost.
If a bad guy has a drone, I want a good guy with a drone. I want a good guy with a bigger drone.
If you have these incursions, like drone incursions near airports, so like, what stops them from flying another drone close to the big drone and trying to bring it down? Like, what stops them? Like, you don't need sophisticated lasers and sharks and whatever. You just need like a bunch of other smaller drones which can fly very quickly, take off, fly immediately, go find bigger drones, see what that is about, and try to bring it down.
Well, I think that's the real question, right? Like, what does it take? Why isn't that already happening, right? Like, and I'm sure that it's not simple, right? Like, part of the problem has been, I think you mentioned this in a previous episode, Kostin, where it's like, the drones flew in, we saw that they came in, we know where the fuck they are, right? Like, a drone can just land on the roof of a house and wait, right? And that was part of like what we used to see with cyber operations, drone-enabled cyber operations for military purposes. It was things like that. Like, you'd fly the drone, it would park itself somewhere, and then you'd have a bridge to the local Wi-Fi and whatever the hell else you wanted to do, or maybe some other like electronic warfare type stuff. And then the drone would fuck off and nobody ever saw that it was here. Or you just leave it there, let it run out of battery, who cares, right? Like, I think that whatever Top Gun, the next version of Top Gun is going to be the lamest shit ever. It's just going to be a bunch of fucking drones, just drone dogfights, as they're saying drones in the chat. Yeah, it's...
But replace Tom Cruise with Adam Sandler, and it'll be like nerds flying drones.
Look, it's not that far off. I think we need to if I'm not letting go of the topic, Ryan, I'm sorry. It's just like I think I can tell that I'm thinking about this on oversimplistic terms. And I'm not saying that means everybody is, but I think it has to do with still looking at drones as toys, still looking at this whole situation as if it's like a novelty. And the reason I pointed to the Israeli ops and the Ukrainian ops is that those were not novelties. Those were war, like incursion, war changing incidents on the basis of these fucking drones. So we gotta talk about these things differently. I think Miko's on point, right? Like right now, if you see the cybersecurity space cooling, and you go, okay, I've got this talent, I'm already well established, maybe I'm a little bored with what's going on in cyber. Like you could go a variety of directions, right? There's friends of ours who are going to places like Anduril, and folks like Miko that are going to do the drone thing, and then folks that are moving into the AI space. And for all of those, they need security. But I think it's also that the intellectual challenge is evolving in some interesting ways that I think cyber has been a little too slow to adapt to.
Can we get to the news?
I mean, if we have to, I guess.
We have done monster episodes on breaches and incidents at all the big companies. At this point, it's been Microsoft, Google. It doesn't matter. This week, we have a new entrant into the space, Oracle. Our friends at Oracle are dealing with customers of Oracle are dealing with some big giant ransomware extortion emails. According to Bloomberg reporting, a significant number of organizations received these extortion emails from hackers who claim to have stolen sensitive information from the victims' Oracle e-business suite instances. Google and Mandiant have put out advisories on this. The weird thing is that we get a statement from Oracle's Chief Security Officer, Robert Duhart, that basically says, we're aware that these EBS customers have received these extortion emails. Our ongoing investigations has found a potential use of previously identified vulnerabilities addressed in our July 2025 critical patch update. Our recommendation now is to go apply that latest critical patch update. I click on the link, Costian, and I see a massive list of like products affected, CVEs, in a massive list in this Oracle critical patch update. What is your guidance to folks? Do we know which vulnerability is actually being exploited here? What is your take on what's happening here?
I think there's no confirmation to exactly which vulnerabilities are being exploited, that even if it's any of those from July. But like assuming it's actually these ones, and these are the ones that you actually have to care about. There are 6 interesting vulnerabilities in this July patch. 3 of them can allow unauthenticated remote access. And although they have like 6.1.
CVS says 6.1. I have it up on the screen here. The ones you're talking about here, these 3, right? These
743 would be the one I'm talking about. 743,
the top.
So apologies. 745 and 746 and 107 would be the ones that allow remote unauthenticated access. Correct. And although they have 6.1, and I guess the reason they're 6.1 because they don't allow, let's say, that kind of deep access, right? But then there's the other ones which are 743, 744, and 105 with the higher base score of 8.1. But they do require like some additional things like credentials, things like that, and those would theoretically provide better access into this Oracle EBS suite. So although we don't know for sure, I would take a guess saying that it's probably some of those sticks from July that Oracle patched. Obviously, you want to patch those vulnerabilities, but I think even more important is to see if they've been exploited already or not. So
you're, I mean, just going on Oracle's official guidance, your thing would be just patch all of these. We don't know which one it is. The idea is test and deploy as quickly as possible, because none of these...
typically, typically it's a combination. Like the attackers use one vulnerability chained with another one to make the second one better and easier. And Typically these kind of chains, they also get patched around the same time, either as companies observe exploitation or they start digging into some code path in their suites. So I would say, of course, patch everything, but like a bigger question is if these intrusions are real, and what are like the IOPS and the TTPs for these intrusions. I haven't seen any detailed blogs or thorough information.
I have on screen the only official information we've got from Oracle, which is basically a one paragraph statement that says nothing, that says go apply all these patches. And I'm not sure. I mean, listen, I know personally.
It even says potential use.
Yeah. It's just, it's the usual legal speak.
May have been massively exploited. Yes.
May have been. We found it in the wild, but we have no indication that it's been exploited in the wild.
We have no indication.
Listen, we know people at Oracle, personally know people at Oracle in security leadership positions there
legit
that are
people.
Incredible.
What did they say?
They have legit people.
No, what I'm saying, Dr. Christina Cifuentes is in charge of like assurance at Oracle. I mean, we know that like the highest quality security people there. When things like this happen, and you know that they know better and everyone knows better, we get a statement like this when all it seems like, let me just bring up the Bloomberg article here, share this. I mean, it's a big story about big companies getting, in some cases, 50 million ransom demands, and they're like threats of like, we will leak out your information slowly unless you pay and so on. This is a big deal, and we get a one paragraph statement from Oracle that says nothing. I mean, we talked about this with Cisco last week. I mean, shouldn't we expect better from these big offenders?
Isn't the problem that it's a big story? Like, we talked about this with Cisco last week, and it was the same situation, right? Like, we've got a bunch of really interesting and good people at Cisco. So it's not that they lack talent. If anything, reading their updated, thing
we'll get to that
today,
in a second, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you see that they are, if you read the language very carefully, they are doing some really interesting shit in order to handle or to get visibility into these things. So, I mean, the talent is there. I think what we need to, if we want to understand the problem properly, we shouldn't be talking about the cybersecurity part of this or the talent part of this or the analysis part of this. We need to be talking about what happens with disclosures, what happens with the market, what happens with the signaling. These companies, and look, any public company facing a situation like this, which is crisis comms, they're just signaling to the market. There is no other reason to do it, right? Like, liability doesn't seem to be a big, like, genuine liability is not a concern. Regulatory stuff is not a concern. And even like stuff with customers isn't really a concern, especially when you're like a cloud or SaaS provider where it's like getting off of this product is going to be a nightmare. So like, yeah, there may be some churn, but if we didn't blue screen their stuff, chances are they're not going to leave. So all of this is about keeping the stock from dipping 2% for a day, right? So there really is no need to put that talent out. And I'm sure that's part of the discussion that's being had in the board, right? The reality of what you do, what you communicate to your customers, the response that you have, even the research that you do internally is just completely divorced from whatever you're going to say publicly. It does not matter. Like, there is no reason why you would come out, as far as they're concerned, and say, this is the fullness of our report. This is everything that we have found. This is what our best people at Oracle. Maybe you put that out in a KB. Maybe you send that out directly to customers if you want to. But I think this is me kind of, it's not advocating for it. It's just kind of going with what I'm seeing. It looks to me like the question here is essentially, why would we expect differently, and like, how do you make them have to do something differently? And even to round out that perspective, is it even the right thing? I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but what is it that we're pushing for that makes it more desirable? And I just want to hear it spelled out, right?
Yeah,
because
should there be a formula for how these disclosures should happen? There should be a formula that at a bare minimum, victims and people at risk should at a bare minimum get XYZ. Isn't that too hard to ask? It's too much to ask.
I don't think it's too much to ask. I think it's not necessarily obvious. And the truth is that without some immediate and very obvious backlash, without some financial perspective, or without an obvious gain on the other side of doing the right thing, trademark, right? Like what how do you motivate that, right? At that point it's an option. It's not the imperative.
Right.
If you tell me that
I guarantee you part of the conversations happening at Oracle internally was patch since July. Why is this even an issue for us? We patched this stuff since July. These people have had months to apply these patches. Why am I facing this shit now? Is that fair?
Well, I would ask, because I didn't really get to look at the July patch and any of the comms around that July patch, but my question would be, how was that emphasized? So first of all, was it obvious that the patch sorry, Toro is walking around with a SummerCon
Toro is allowed to do as he
band
pleases.
in his mouth, asking for somebody to play with him. Come here. Anyways, on the July patch, was it obvious that it would enable that kind of access?
Well, first of all, let me just go back. When Oracle drops these CPUs, critical patch updates, I believe it's now on a quarterly cadence. They drop like hundreds and hundreds of CV in a big giant document, and they say go patch, right? Like that's the reality of what people face. I imagine in patch management software enterprises are using, they have systems in place. In my perfect world, they have systems in place to determine which one should go first, which one is the most serious, where has network access, and so on. I know for a fact Oracle does not come out on Patch Tuesday and say, hey, pay attention to XYZ, pay attention to this one, pay attention to this one. There's no outgoing, there's no proactive warnings about very, very specific things. But again, in fairness to Oracle, I patched this stuff since July. Why are my customers crying to me now because they haven't patched? Like, is that a fair assessment?
I don't know, because I also don't understand the tech stack that we're talking about here and what patch application looks like, right? Like if Oracle has gotten patches, if Oracle has gotten patching down to where it's not disruptive, it is obvious, it is something that should just be happening, then yeah, you do look at the customer and go, guys, we have an auto update mechanism. We make this easy. It doesn't cause any downtime. It doesn't cause any problems. Why the fuck didn't you patch? I think that's a fair thing to say, right? At some point, you can't just look. We're not looking at Oracle going, hey, there was a vuln that you knew about and you didn't issue a patch, which is what the conversation we would be having with a lot of people, right? So like, it's not like Oracle mega fucked up, but there is some, here. It's not obvious what exactly the where the real responsibility ultimately lies. I would remind us that the ultimate responsibility is still always going to be with the attacker, but there is a question of essentially how common these things are, like these patches, how easy it is to actually patch the thing, how uncomplicated is it. It does sound like there are a lot of people who were not patched, right?
Yeah, numerous big companies. So it seems like this is not one of those that was quickly deployed, right?
Or that deploying these patches is not an easy thing, right? Is it that like you do one omnibus patch one time every fucking 18 months with 4,000 vulnerabilities in it, and you can't be remiss for not having put it because you didn't even know these things ever come out, right? Like that's one. But maybe I'm thinking about appliances, right? Like this is presumably a SaaS application, right? I don't super understand what the fuck this ERP thing is, but I don't know. I don't know that we even need to issue blame necessarily. Like I think
blame.
This is,
It's not blame. I want to just revisit the original question. Costin, let me bring you in here. What is a base minimum that customers should expect? Let's just say if we can just set up a base minimum where in this case they're still investigating, we might have some information, it's kind of still sketchy and so on. What is a base minimum of what we should expect from these vendors in disclosure? Do we expect?
Fair question. I fully understand the need for some kind of a lawyer approved statement that doesn't push the stock down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but at the same time, a knowledge base article, like you were saying, which, first of all, it says that this is an investigation in progress. We will update it as more information becomes available. Very important. Like, why? Because it tells people to come back and check it later, come back and check it often, because it may have new information available. Two, it will say what we know. What do we know so far? So maybe we don't know anything. I would say at the moment we don't know anything. We don't have any hard information about these attacks, but we are working with industry partners to try to understand better what is going on. Okay, that's fine. Then next, I think one of the most important things is if you didn't already apply the patch and you suspect an infection, here's how to check if you have been affected, if that information has become available.
A small FAQ.
Then, like a bunch of small FAQ as well, but a bunch of IOCs, IOCs in there that allow people to quickly check if they have been affected. And who tells me that actually maybe I did patched, by somehow I'm still affected. So how do I actually check if I have been affected? Again, when that information becomes available. And next, I would also include links to vendors' blogs whenever they become available. Like, here's more information on the technical details of this attack can be found here, and just link to other vendors' blogs. But very important to say, it's a work in progress.
In some cases, they have data that you don't have. They have visibility you don't have. They are bringing, in some cases, third-party vendors bring a fresh batch of information to the table.
Yeah, because of all the telemetry that others receive and so on. I think it would also be important to point out how this updating happens. So if this requires like some kind of a manual interaction, somebody needs to push a button or somebody needs to log in on like 100 different VMs and run an update script, or is it like fully automatic? And if it's fully automatic, why, let's say, didn't the update work? And this reminds me of the WannaCry case back in the days when I had people, friends of mine, with the Windows automatic updates on, who still got infected with WannaCry. They said, like, we had automatic updates on, they were enabled, but somehow the updates didn't get installed. So I think that is important, and obviously this may also be a good time for Oracle to invest a bit more into security from 2 points of view. One, to have some kind of telemetry agent collection statistics that would allow them to diagnose such incidents in the future. And two, to develop and grow like the internal capabilities of a team that can put together and research such cases, because I can assure you there will be more incidents in the future. This is not going away. All ransomware cybercriminal threat actors, they're all going after the big ERPs like Oracle. We were talking about Salesforce only just a few episodes ago, so this is not going away. If you're one of these big ERP companies, then I think you need to pay attention to security and to start developing internal security capabilities that can investigate such cases. I think it's not enough to say that you should have patched, especially when your customers pay millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars on these systems.
Yeah, at a bare minimum, you have to give better information. Yeah, I agree. Just showing on the screen here, a cyber scoop actually got a copy of the email that was being sent from this cl0p ransomware folks, with warning about, just the usual. We can show you 3 files now, and we can slowly show proof that we have it, and they give you information and so on. What do we know about these cl0p people? Do we have any sort of intelligence on who they are, where they're based, what they're known for, anything that can help people understand what we're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, cl0p is probably one of the top threat actors, top ransomware actors at the moment, if they're not like the biggest and most serious of them all. Disappeared like I think around 2019 when they were somehow associated with TA 505/Fin11. And over the years they did a big big runs. One of them was the Assyrian FTA transfer system breach, And the other bigger one, the biggest, was the Move IT transfer
Yeah.
vulnerability from 2023, which affected like 8,000 companies worldwide, maybe 3,000 of them in the States. Now, these are like pretty serious guys. The only thing which I find strange here is that they typically write the name as C, uppercase C, lowercase L, 0P.
Zero.
Yeah, and in this case, it's written like in a different way, which is uppercase C, uppercase L, lowercase O, and uppercase P, which I find like weird. It's also interesting that I think a few years ago they arrested a couple of cl0p guys in Ukraine, which was interesting. You know, typically you hear about these groups being mostly associated with Russian cyber criminals, but in some cases you see them extending into nearby countries like Moldova is a hub where you see this kind of activities, but also Ukraine. The Ukrainian law enforcement have been pretty effective at going after these activities many times, obviously. So yeah, they arrested some guys in Ukraine from cl0p, but obviously they didn't stop them, and this is still active. And again, not just active, like maybe the most active ransomware threat actor in 2025.
It's live as we speak. Even with the difference in spelling, I think the attribution came from a contact information provided by the attackers in these emails that kind of had some overlap with the old cl0p leak website, right?
Safe enough.
I mean, that's where we kind of making the attribution that this is cl0p.
I don't know. Was the leak stuff made, like, was the leak site and stuff made available? Because I saw it redacted in some of the quick things that I looked at. But just to Kosten's point about it being, spelled differently and everything. Like, when I first heard this thing, if I hadn't seen sort of the confirmations, my expectation was, as always happens with these sorts of claims, is like, is this even real? Right? Like, is this even real? Or are you just claiming something because, you got something that looks like the kind of thing that you would expect from a bigger attack, but, what are your bona fides? And with cl0p, like, my understanding is they did so well with Move It that they were almost swamped for I want to say like a year and a half. Yeah, they had too many victims. It was like a year and a half's worth of like dropping things slowly, and they were suffering from success. And so, is it cl0p? I don't know, right? Like you kind of take it as they could be just borrowing the brand, and that's something part of Max Smeetz's trust paradox thing here, right? Like you've got a thing. Maybe it is a real attack, but it isn't actually cl0p, and you just don't have a brand and you're trying to move. Maybe it isn't a real attack, as in like it's not exactly of the breadth and scope that you would expect. In that, I do want to kind of praise Oracle in that they're not trying to minimize it. They're not coming in and saying this isn't a thing at all, which for companies that aren't usually in this position, that's usually the first reaction is this isn't real. It isn't a thing. It's alarmist because we've never dealt with it before, so clearly it can't be real. And that's not what's going on with them. Like they kind of very quickly went at it, and they're even leaving it in that tentative state, which is another mistake that we usually get from the amateurs, which is this may be a thing, but it's a small thing, and the thing is done. And they didn't say that, right? They said, "Look, it's an ongoing." So, like, they
didn't say anything, to be honest.
yeah, that's fair. But look, I mean, it's early on enough where not saying something doesn't mean you won't say something.
Right.
If next
it could
week
be our
we're still
first
saying
point
they
number
never
one is
said
push
any,
people
right.
to the patch. Point number one, push people to the patch, and then let's fill in and backfill it. We're giving our Oracle all the benefit of the doubt here. I mean,
they have the right folks, and it's very early in this situation. If next week we come back and you're like, "Yep, they still haven't said shit," and actually here's all the ways that they've kind of very poorly handled this, then we're going to have a different conversation. But like with Cisco, the reason, we kind of came in so fucking hot last time is, well, you've dealt with this 10 fucking times, and you have the people, and it's obvious that you're just not sharing. Like, Gov is pissed.
NCSC dropped something that you wouldn't even acknowledge.
You didn't even link to it. Like, you don't care enough about the people that are hit for this to even refer them to the fact that they have better resources out there. Like, that is the ultimate callousness of the situation, right? So.
Hey, listen, I bring up this Oracle thing and the expectations should be higher and like the demand should be higher and the smart people there because one of the stories we didn't get to last week was like Oracle is now in charge of all the TikTok, securing all of TikTok data in this new deal, right? I mean, the announcement as part of the new TikTok deal was that Oracle would recreate and provide security for a new US version of the algorithm under this new deal that the White House announced. The expectations is now Oracle is in theory dealing with national security implications. Uh, uh, I just wanted to connect it.
This is
to,
such a weird thing.
No, it's not a weird connection. It's like a it's,
No, not a weird connection on your. I just of all the companies to like run a social media site, right? Like let's think about this on two terms, right? You can talk about the security of the thing. And frankly, we should, as far as like even the technical feasibility of this idea, and whether an algorithm is really the thing that whatever. And then there's Oracle, right? Like just Oracle as a fucking like of all the companies that I like, they're like IBM-esque, right? Like it's a company that I don't think of as having a sense of humor or much of like a public anything. And and for them to be the ones doing all the dances and shit, it just doesn't, I don't know how it's going to sit with the kids out here.
I'm old enough to remember when Oracle was a punching bag in cybersecurity, when Litchfield would show up at Black Hat every year with just a big batch of Oracle vulns because Oracle was running this Unbreakable campaign. Because do you remember? Oracle databases, unhackable, unbreakable. That was their massive campaign. And Dave Litchfield would show up at Black Hat and DEF CON every year with just those hundreds. And then we always had this fight between Marianne Davidson and the industry. So Oracle has had a rich history of this kind of combative relationship with cybersecurity industry. It has changed dramatically over, I would say, the last 4 or 5 years. Marianne Davidson, I believe, just retired. There's this new chief security officer here. According to the Trump announcement, data from US users would be stored in a secure cloud managed by Oracle with controls established to keep out foreign adversaries. I don't know what the fuck that means, right? But this is not a new comment to security or disclosure or a combative relationship with researchers or the cybersecurity industry. So it's interesting to see how they've suddenly re-emerged as a big player in the TikTok deal. And then at the same time, we have cl0p hitting some of their biggest vendors. You want to wrap it up for me, Costin?
Purely in relation to this TikTok deal without the other one, there's a paragraph in here which attracted my attention and which says, and I can't let it go. Under the deal, Oracle will operate in partnership with the U.S. government on everything from the algorithm retraining to application development and source code review, the White House said. It wasn't immediately clear what role the government might have in oversight of the application, its algorithm, and user data. So on one hand, I think that there is probably some big money happening behind this deal, obviously. It has to have some kind of a financial angle. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen like that. And two, the ability for the government to control the training algorithm for any kind of social media app, to basically control what the people are seeing. I think that is a fantastic capability, and it would be like just foolish just to not to acquire it if that is possible. To make sure like that, it's unbiased on one hand, and two, I don't want, of course, going to speculating or conspiracy Ryan style diatribes, but the ability to shape this algorithm, the ability to shape that algorithm, imagine, to control what the people are seeing. So when your government can control what the kind of information people are seeing on a social media. How is it different from
someone else doing the same thing right now?
It's I don't know, because like someone else is in a different country, right? But to me, it's interesting. Like typically companies, their interest is financial. So they want to show the things that will give them the most clicks and money. What is the government interest? You can say perhaps it's also financial. So then there'll be, I don't know, some government advertisements, promotion, campaigning going through TikTok. I don't know. So you need to ask yourself, what is the government gaining from the deals when they have the ability to control the source code algorithms in a social media application in your own country? Like, this is typically what you see in China nowadays. But I guess everybody wants to have, like, everybody's looking at China and saying, wow, what China has is amazing.
I don't look at it that way, because I don't think, I wish we were in a position to have true conspiracy Ryan worthy discussions about what the government is trying to accomplish here. I don't think it's all that smart or well thought out. I do think it is relatively simplistic in some of what they're thinking, but I don't think it extends beyond China bad. And they're right? Like, they're right, but for reasons that we don't want to discuss. Like, why the focus on the algorithm? Well, presumably for this kind of administration, it's some concern about, shadow banning, and it's like the same shit that all these like wimpy billionaires keep moaning about on social media, which is, that they're not there's all this free speech being blocked, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But that is an oversimplification of the true horrifying power of, it's not even social media, but incumbent control of attention when it comes to all these different platforms. And my rants about this in the past have focused on things like Instagram. And I usually point to Shoshana Zuboff's Age of Surveillance Capitalism as somebody that kind of makes the right argument, even though I think Shoshana Zuboff didn't understand how much worse the situation is than even what she's describing. But let's look at for those of us old enough to remember the internet of old, before the ad-based and shitification of things, we had a lot more agency in what content we were exposed to at all. You would have to go to places. You would have to look for things. The internet of the past 8 years or so, I don't know, just throwing a random number.
The death of RSS. There's a direct timeline where when RSS died and they killed off RSS and we moved everything into algorithmic forcage of.
And look, if there was such a thing as conspiracy jags, one that believed that things are so intentional and well planned, which I wish that were the case, but I don't think that it is most of the time. What I would say is RSS died in order to change the mentality that you're somehow supposed to decide what you want coming to you through the internet, and instead be entirely in receive mode of just kind of going into the thing and saying, what do you plan to show me, YouTube? What does the internet have for me today? The same way that you had it on television sets, where like, you just logged in because you tuned on because you wanted to watch CSI or whatever, and in the meantime you learned all about like erectile dysfunction and all these things that you had no desire to learn. And in a way, the internet has been changed to that. And talking about algorithms is a wonderful way of depersonalizing and almost removing the agency and the intentionality of the fact that these companies like YouTube, like Google, like Meta, are in a position to completely direct and decide where the attention of whole swaths of people go and what they do with that attention. And look at Amazon, right? Like, Amazon has made an entire empire, and a too big to fail empire, out of what? Control over attention, like being able to direct you in certain ways, and then shameless vertical integration, which is to say, the minute something starts taking off, the minute they realize that something is a hot item or a thing people want or a thing people look for, Amazon looks for a way where they can be the ones that actually sell the end product as well. And then what do? They use that power they have of redirection to go, you wanted a cable. Don't worry about it, bro.
You wanted this cable.
You wanted this cable? Yeah, don't worry. You don't need that cable. Here's the Amazon Basics cable, right? Like, And they are a bajillionaire out of that unbelievable power, and that's honestly, I keep pointing to Shoshana's book because it breaks everything we thought of that underpinned capitalism and free market economics for 200 years. No one would have ever imagined that you could control the successive things a person thinks and the ways in which they interact with the market, and in a matter of microseconds on a whim because of technology. But that's where all the free market breaks. Why we're moving in this direction? Well, because what's happening here is about control of those markets. TikTok, nobody would give a flying fuck about TikTok if it had gone the way of like Vine, where like, yeah, a bunch of kids are fucking dancing, but like, who gives a shit? It's just other content. And what they show you, no one cares. But it became more popular than Google search. It became a more visited website than Google. And nobody gives a fuck about the dancing. What they care about is the amount of attention that is being moved towards this channel that we don't control. And yeah, you could worry about nationalistic influence and what it's going to do to like folks and how they conceive of their world when it's controlled by, a CCP adjacent organization, but also how much money is going to traverse through that market, because people apparently, I didn't know this myself, I hear this from the kids, people buy shit through TikTok the same way people buy things through Instagram. You have TikTok stores and whatnot. So it became a matter of, I think, crucial, almost terrifying necessity to say we cannot allow the Chinese to control the attention redirection that goes into how the American market spends its money towards Chinese equivalents, right? That is the clinching thing that you need for Temu and Alibaba and whatever to completely offset Amazon and everybody else. The minute they also control the social sphere that moves you towards click here to buy, and click here to buy is something that's being direct shipped from China, the entire American ecosystem has been undercut from this thing. And you have a direct to consumer reality to the Chinese. That's what this shit is about. Nobody gives a fuck about Oracle. Nobody thinks so I'm sorry, Oracle's great as a company, but nobody thinks that Oracle is the preferred parent of a social media conglomerate, right? Like, yeah, they're smart. I'm sure they can handle algorithms, but like, this is just not in their wheelhouse. This is not a muscle that they have, and that's okay. The IBM never needed to run,
Yeah, but what's
MySpace,
the alternative?
right?
You had to give it to a big company. You couldn't give it to Microsoft, Google. You had to give it to a big company with like the kind of scale to manage and deal with this. I mean,
the story I wanted to to attach to this one, which is not in our doc, was about Sora 2. Because the question is, why didn't you give TikTok to OpenAI, for example?
Ooh,
OpenAI apparently...
Why should you? Why should you give anything to TikTok?
Well, because OpenAI just created a social media platform, which is Sora 2. And it is the most terrifying, uncanny, bizarre thing I have experienced in my lifetime to just think about this thing. To just... For those of you that don't know, like Ryan, Kosan, have you guys seen this before the episode? Like I mentioned it very briefly.
I saw a bunch of like, I saw some social media conversation on it. It's like you're creating. I'm showing it on the screen here. The prompt: the person is standing on two horses with legs spread. Make it not slow-mo and also realistic. The guy fell off pretty hard at the end. Make it a single shot. Like, it's amazing. Right. It's incredible what you can create with prompts.
Okay, so that's Sora. That's Sora, which we've had Sora for a while. Now there's a new Sora. And what Sora does is you give it a prompt, it creates a video. Very cool, very impressive. It was not that great a few months back, but we all knew it was going to get better. So cool. Where does the social media element come into it? Well, you log into Sora and you basically it needs literally 10 seconds of you looking at the camera, reading a few numbers that it shows you, and then it tells you to move your head like one direction, just one, just right or left. And with that, it now has your likeness. It doesn't need any more input whatsoever. It now has your likeness. And the social media element of this is that you decide who can use your likeness in their videos. So if Kostin, Ryan, and I trust each other, yeah, you go, oh, Ryan has permission to use my likeness for whatever videos he wants. And I literally, I think it was yesterday or the night before, like I wrote this thing on, I'm trying to use LinkedIn as if it were the old Twitter, where I just throw these like random thoughts that like nobody knows how to interact with. But like it is an uncanny feeling to be a human being in the 21st century, because what I dealt with, my generation dealt with as kids, was Facebook came around, and all of a sudden, like, your pictures of every night, every time you got drunk and did something fucking stupid. Now that was going online because somebody would take a picture and they would put it up, and you'd go, damn, there's no such thing as like being a dumb kid anymore and just making a few mistakes because some asshole is going to take a picture of what you're doing or put up a video of what you're doing. And that's gotten way worse, right? Like now, like everyone is now defined. Yeah, everyone's now defined by the worst moment they've ever had. If you ever had a freak out, if you ever had a meltdown, somebody recorded it, and from now on, you are that person until the end of time. It's pretty awful, right? Like it's pretty damning. Everybody has bad moments. Everyone has, not great days. However, at the end of the day, you could argue that no matter what, that was a representation of something you chose to do at any given moment, right? Like, it's the fact that somebody filmed me being an asshole is inconvenient.
You were still the asshole, right?
But I was still being an asshole. I chose to do that. I have agency in that action. I may not control the fact that it was recorded or that it was put out there, but it was something I chose to do. This is a weird moment to be a human being when my friends can choose how I represent myself, how I'm seen. You can't be the aloof guy who chooses to just not engage with the lame dancing. Now you are just a likeness to be manipulated for content production. And it is just, I'm not damning it. I'm not saying it's not going to work or it is going to work. I am just existentially befuddled.
What is the point of Sora 2? Is this just to compete, just to put new thing into people's hands to get eyeballs onto people's phones? Like, what is OpenAI's big picture here? Or is this just some project from a team that they want to showcase how amazing they are?
So I cannot possibly speak to what OpenAI is trying to do, really, right? What we can say is OpenAI has... as a frontier lab, and all frontier labs are in this weird situation where they're research labs. They're building something that is like an underlying technology. It is obviously, evidently cutting edge. It is, without a doubt, insanely cool shit nobody else has ever seen before. However, being insanely cool shit does not compensate for a $20 billion a year run rate, right? Like, that is a terrifying amount of money that is being burned on building these like world-changing technologies. And so they're all having to have these really uncomfortable conversations about when and where and how you're going to make that money back. I think if you look at the TAM, if you look at the thought of... of the scale of what could possibly pay that money back, then you can see why, right? Like, obviously, like, Anthropic has gone deep on like coding and there's a lot of shops like, DeepMind, Google, so on, that are very interested in like protein folding and things that are going to hopefully produce a certain amount of patentable medicine and things that you can essentially make a shit ton of money off of on the backs of these ML advancements. So if you're gonna ask what it is that they're doing, I think this is like a shot in the dark attempt at saying, well, people seem to enjoy sharing fun videos where they do dances and they do this. People like sharing memes. People like sharing personalized content as like a form of expression, right? Like, I want to convey an emotion to you. I send you an emoji, or I send you an existing GIF, or a meme that we have in common, and that is a way that I'm socializing. And they're saying, well, you don't need to be like, we have this technology that we don't know what to use. We want somebody to be using Sora tokens, because that's OpenAI's main goal, is to be able to say, we have burned X amount of tokens on this Sora thing, that because people are using it. And in this case, what you get is this kind of bizarre experiment, because I don't think people were using Sora all that much. I had access to Sora. I used it 4 times to test it, and I was like, oh, well, it'll get better someday, and then I moved on. But there is no forcing function where you go, oh, this is a task for Sora. So I think this is their way of saying, like, let's just try it. Let's just experiment. Let's see if it latches on somehow. And I want to say that it will not latch on. I want to say that we wouldn't use it, but I don't understand the kids these days. I was never the one doing the dancing, and if you told me, like, here's a platform where people are going to do a bunch of dumbass dances and, like, send them to each other, I've been like, that's fucking dumb. No one's ever going to use that. I would have been wrong. So I'm not saying that this isn't going to take off. I'm just saying that it feels fucking weird.
Who wants this shit, Costin? I remember episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 of this very podcast, when we were in the midst of the Romanian election season, right? Remember? And you talked about the guy with the app. The young guy with the app was like getting young minds trained and so on. So they like this theme has been there forever. And I'm just wondering, like, who wants a social media platform that generates AI generated video of your likeness, and like, who's asking for any of this shit?
It's an interesting question, but what I'm waiting for, and I hope, to be honest, it'll come, because at the moment all these videos are like short videos of something happening in a semi-static scene for a couple of seconds. That's what it is. So I would love to start seeing longer things, like a movie done by AI with real-looking actors, like real-looking humans. Things like that would be definitely interesting. Now, I guess
computer storytelling,
maybe the idea, I mean, to imagine things which wouldn't be possible otherwise, or where the stunts would cost too much to make them feasible. So that would be, I think, one interesting use case. Keep in mind, man. Keep in mind. Oh yeah, like just imagine that you can
10
do
Jet Lis, yeah.
No, not Jet Li, but imagine doing some new Bruce Lee movies, new ones, where Bruce Lee, I don't know, goes to Afghanistan, or Bruce Lee goes to Ukraine, like I don't know, like crazy
Bruce
things.
Bruce Lee and the flying drones, right? Like,
well, that's already doable. That's already
would be good
doable.
To see it. Would be good to see, like, the long movie, like 1 hour and a half, yeah.
Why? I think Sam Altman had made a statement recently that was like already relatively doable. But think about it, right? Like the part that I naively skipped over is, well, that's why you want this. You want this to take off so that you have a shit ton of of what's the equivalent of ChatGPT beta. You want a shit ton of RLHF, of people saying, I asked for this, and this is a good response, and I asked for that, and that's a bad response, so that they can fine-tune Sora, so that Sora 3 can do an hour and a half worth of video, because you have a bunch of people who clicked an up and down thumb button based on their prompts.
When can they do 4-hour podcast episodes, so we don't have to wake up late in the morning?
I'm sure it'll be soon. No, it'll be pretty soon. But just keep in mind that these Hollywood blockbusters, which have a budget of $500 million, right? I don't know, $700 million, could be done with $1 million and Sora 5. Just think about that.
So when you get Netflix paying OpenAI to come up with documentaries for a fucking CNN story that came out 45 minutes ago. There you see the play, right?
Or you
like
generate your own.
More like far in the future. Imagine you go to Netflix and says, what do you want to see today? And you say, like, today I want to see a video about a guy who uncovers a massive conspiracy with drones in the US government, where the drones are actually aliens from Zeti Reticuli, and they're using the element 115 for propulsion. And like in 2 minutes, the movie is ready. Like the movie is ready for you. And then people, start rating these home-produced videos, and some become like hits, some become famous, whatever.
Who wants this shit? You really
I want it. But like after a while, of course, people will get tired of all that, and they'll go back to the old school westerns from
Dude,
the
I'm already
50s
seeing
and
it.
the 60s.
Juan, wait a second. I'm already seeing it in written text content. I can tell when someone uses AI to write a letter to me, or when they're not.
Yeah.
And the ones that are standing out are the ones that are human. So I feel like it's going to naturally shift. Humans are just going to be like so droned out on the AI shit that the real shit is going to stand out. At least, I mean, that's my experience so far. If I ask someone to help me with copy for something, we're putting up a video on YouTube, give me a description. I can tell exactly if they looked at it or if they asked the ChatGPT to do it. I mean, it's so obvious. Juan, give me the retort.
The retort is actually that we're looking at we are trying to predetermine a social phenomenon on the basis of a new technology. And in most cases, that's never accurate, because what it'll mean for this to take off is for it to find a natural mode of human expression that to us is not immediately obvious. And it's never immediately obvious, right? Like the person who invented the GIF did not think that it would become a ubiquitous mode of social interaction based on like literally being a keyboard in your phone to send messages to other people. They just wanted a like low res, low frame rate way of like doing animations. And so my point here is like the things that we take for granted as like old man yells at cloud, of like, oh, we could always make videos. You're like, yeah, but now you can make them like sort of auto-generate. It's like, yeah, we could always auto-generate. I'm like, yeah, but now you can make them really fast. It's like, we could always, it's like, yes, I understand that we could do all these things, but now we can do them really fast, really cheap, with no
everyone can do it really fast and
everyone
really cheap,
can do it really fast. So what happens? And so I think you can also see why the AI companies are not going all in on any one of these projects. I would not be surprised if Sora 2 is like a social media phenomenon for like 2 months, and then they shut that shit down unceremoniously and decide to go do something else.
They're like moonshot bets, right?
Well, part of it's moonshots. Part of it is them like toying with us to get the data they need to get past a certain hurdle. They go, hey, we need to improve Sora. We can't move it beyond where it's at. Like, that's why ChatGPT beta was free. People think, oh, they just wanted us to see the technology. They're like, actually, they really needed all of those interactions in order to get from GPT 3.5 to 4 to 5. So I'm sure that that's an element in this, is like they need this as part of the training data. At the same time, I'm sure that they're paying very close attention to who the adopters are and what for. Because Sam Altman has said it himself, and he said it actually, he threw this offhand comment when he spoke to us at this security event that Dave Eitel put together, where he said, you know, it's really weird. It's really interesting to see how different generations use ChatGPT. The younger folks, like the Zoomers, essentially talk to it in one giant long thread. And it like has so much information about their lives and their friends and whatever, that like the answers to them feel deeply personalized, and they can have conversations about like, oh, I'm having this thing with my friend, and I don't know how to handle this, that, and the other. And ChatGPT has so much shit in its context window from every discussion they've had about this that it like advises them. And frankly, I think any one of us, I'm going to guess, any one of us and anybody listening to this thing would have looked at that at face value and said, there's no fucking way somebody would discuss this many things with AI. And there's no way somebody would tell it about all its relevant, their friendships and whatnot. There's no way. Like, yeah, there is. Apparently there is a subset. And frankly, the numbers are going to be very interesting. How many people do that? How many people under the age of 25 do that? How many people do that have how much disposable income? Does that lead them to sell or buy things in certain types of interactions? That is, like, essentially, we're looking to reinvent the ad. We're looking to reinvent the influence towards spending, the influence towards consumption, and we don't know what it's going to take. So this is the moment where you throw out a bunch of shit and then you watch very closely to see what did they do, what happened. We gave them this access. We thought they were going to use it this way. Actually, they went that way. Why?
Right.
And like
right.
that is we are in the very early stages of redefining how human beings interact with each other and with technology. And there's almost like a behavioral psychology element of this that's pure discovery.
It's fascinating to me. This has been one of the weirdest episodes yet so far. I have another news story I wanted to get to, which is this Palo Alto report on Phantom Taurus. Fancy name, Phantom Taurus. By the way, I'm showing this on the screen here. Imagine you're a Bloomberg reporter, right? And you wrote a story and you publish it, and then Bloomberg has an AI that kind of distills it into a few paragraphs and tells the readers, don't fucking read this article, just read this AI regenerated thing of what you actually wrote. It's so like counterproductive.
We haven't been able to get rid of these fucking journalists yet, but in the meantime, here's a bit of slop.
Palo Alto put out a report on Phantom Taurus, a new Chinese Nexus APT, and the discovery of a NetStar malware suite. In tandem, we got this article from Bloomberg that says Chinese hackers have breached email servers of foreign ministers as part of a years-long effort targeting communications of diplomats around the world. Attackers access Microsoft Exchange servers, the ability to search for information on foreign intelligence at foreign ministries. Costin, have you had a look at the report, the original report? Any IOCs, anything interesting there that stands out?
Yeah, there's 4 hashes in there. I was able to find 3 samples out of those 4. Made like some Yara rules. To be honest, I didn't find any other samples. So I would assume that it's not one of the most widespread things out there. It's like more kind of narrow targeted in a sense. I wanted also to take a look, like a deeper look at these particular modules. They're written in .NET. They're about 6-7 kilobytes in size, so not too bad. You can definitely decompile them and see how they operate. I did notice like some interesting things about like some constants which are being used in those. For instance, if you search for those, you'll find a bunch of other stuff, but I'm not sure if they are directly related to Phantom Taurus or not. But to be honest, I admit that everyone needs to look a bit more into this story to see like what else it is connected with and what other tools are being used by the same people.
What's the significance of this NetStar malware? Is there any? Do we know what that is?
Like I said, it's just like a bunch of binaries which have this PDB path inside that point to the project. I've seen I've seen over the years thousands of small .NET binaries which are used for one purpose or another. In particular, like Turla, for instance, they've been very adept at using this to hijack Exchange servers, to write plugins that hijack emails in Exchange servers and do kind of man-on-the-site style commands and injections. So it's pretty powerful when, let's say, plugged into the right places, when these modules are plugged into the right places. But like I said, there isn't much that you can find starting from this, or at least I haven't been able to find a lot more. So basically, when somebody publishes a blog, you can start digging in that direction, which means you write TRR rules, which I did. You start running them everywhere, hoping or trying to find related stuff, right? More tools used by the same group. So in particular, in this case, I haven't been able to find a lot more, which means I need to dig further.
Who the fuck uses Visual Basic for this shit? Like, what fucking year is it?
I'm thankful. I'm thankful when instead of Golang and Rust, we can buy some of these 4 kilobytes, 6 kilobytes binaries compiled in .NET. I'm like, thank you, God, for the meal and for the binary today. Thank you.
I'll take Golang, just not Rust.
A small tiny item in the report was on the attribution. Palo Alto kind of showcased this diamond model, the model of attribution that got them to this. Wait. Don't. These people have put a lot of effort into this, but the model of attribution is a cross between the adversary, the infrastructure, victimology, and capabilities in a model and a framework that gets them to the attribution. Juanito, we talked about this earlier in the podcast, and you were very dismissive of it. But before you go there, I want to ask Kostian, if I remember correctly, this came up at Virus Bulletin this year. It was like they got a prize for it or something.
That is true. The attribution framework got the Peter Zor Lifetime Achievement Award at Virus Bulletin.
So how could, and this is why I wanted to set up the conversation before Juanito could jump in. At Virus Bulletin, all the old school folks are saying this is the most important thing we've seen in Realm. Juanito, you're ready to pour cold water on this attribution model. Why?
I mean, first of all, I'm not even sure they're using their own attribution framework, right? Like whoever wrote this went back to the diamond model. The diamond model's been around for fucking ever, and it's pretty. I'm trying to find because like you got me like halfway into I'm in the middle of this thing. I have criticized the diamond model a lot in the past. To the point of like making it a bit of a punchline, and I think it is a bit of a punchline to most people who do threat intel stuff at this point, because it's one of those like government analyst oversimplifications that like the minute somebody starts spouting off about the diamond model, I'm like, either you worked in the intelligence community at a very specific era and didn't really grow from that beyond that, or you worked at Mandiant at a very specific era and never grew beyond that. Because it is just a massive oversimplification that is, I think, honestly problematic at some point. Mandiant in particular proved that out with this kind of ridiculous inability to graduate their own APTs and like other people's APTs because they were so hung up on this bureaucracy they had created around the fucking diamond model that an APT like Turla, that is obviously a fucking APT and has been around for longer than some people have been alive in this fucking industry, was never given an APT number because it had not graduated. It had not made it up to. They might think they're an APT, but by God, they have not met the standard of what we consider an APT, and you're like, you guys are fucking ridiculous. So to then see Palo Alto come out with this, like, I mean, I was fucking annoyed when I first read the attribution framework that Palo Alto had pushed, because to me, it was like, oh, they hired somebody who just left the intelligence community, has never left that fucking cave before, and has not read anything since leaving there. And they just think, well, the diamond model is the greatest fucking thing anyone's ever invented. Nobody has written anything since then. Nobody has done anything since then. And all we need is to enhance this diamond model. So to me, first of all, while I'm in the process of unfortunately antagonizing Palo Alto, because I like all the people in Palo Alto, let me also unfortunately antagonize the people at Virus Bulletin and say, I cannot fucking believe that you would give the Peter Zor Award to that fucking thing, like mediocre random fucking blog posts about attribution. What the fuck is happening over there? Out of all the research in the past 12 fucking months, that was the best fucking thing in this industry?
Lifetime.
Fuck off. Like, that is just not. Look, I'm happy that people get an award. Good for them. But it's embarrassing that you would look at something like that and think that that is the best piece of research anyone in this entire space has put out over a fucking year.
Kostin.
On the bright side, our good friend Gabor Zapanos was also nominated. Unfortunately, he didn't win. But he was sitting with me at the table, and we had like a good conversation about the old days, so we all felt better. And cheers to Zapi, as he's known in the community.
Shout out to our friends at Virus Bulletin, who has always given us a platform to tell our stories. And Juanito, you made your name there. Go easy.
Just to keep in mind, by the way, just to keep in mind,
times.
Who else was nominated? Operation Crimson Palace, which, by the way, from Sophos, is a fantastic research.
Which one was that? Did we talk about that?
It's, if you remember, I think it was initially presented at PivotCon, but it talks about 3 activity clusters like overlapping and how difficult it is actually to try to separate between them.
Yeah.
Fantastic. In my opinion, fantastic research. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
didn't win.
Didn't win. No. And the other one was, like I said, Zapi with his research on GoodLoader. Very heavy, very hard technical research on GoodLoader.
Kostin is a judge, I believe. Like, aren't you a judge?
I am a judge, but I admit because of other commitments and other issues, I was not able to judge, unfortunately, on this.
Now he's deleting himself
so you
from this
wait,
shit.
no,
yeah.
wait.
I was not able to
Kostin,
vote, no.
You vote for the award part?
I do.
Yes.
Okay,
Kostin
because like
is a big
I'm part
deal.
of the
program committee. Yeah, we're both on the program committee. Yeah,
but I'm not part of the award. Because so what I will say about the Peter Zor Award part, and it's no judgment on you, Kostin. I think the true shame of it is that we don't have that many awards for just like, hey, you did good research, and I think we should have more of that in the industry.
No more awards. Enough fucking awards.
No. But the problem with awards in this industry is that they're bought and paid for. But with the Peter Zor Award, it's not bought and paid for. However, it's based on somebody submitting their research. And none of the researchers I know are going to submit their own research because it's almost like it's a weird, like it feels weird. It feels strange to be like, you should consider my blog post.
It's like voting for yourself in the elections.
So the people who vote, the people who put these things up are the people who work at the marketing departments of these different companies. And then you end up with a small batch of really random shit that some random, marketing people put up. And it's not like,
it dilutes your award though. Like if you're gonna do an award, then you put together a board or a committee that can go comb the internet. People who are plugged into the scene to comb the internet and look for it. What do they do? So
that's my point. That's my point. It's
what's the name of the one that they do at Black Hat? No,
the ponies. The
ponies. Right? At least that's an attempt. It's still submitted, but it's an attempt. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going off on some weird tangents.
Yeah, fuck this attribution thing. It's.
Shout out to my friends at Virus Bulletin. Quickly, can we do a quick Cisco follow-up? Cisco has added a lot more technical details to the bulletin that we originally panned last week. And also pointing to some arcane door detection guidance. Still no link to the NCSC report or naming of the malware, but I feel like we got a lot more. Kostin, did you feel like you got a lot more as a threat hunter capable of taking the new information that Cisco has put up in version 2.1 of this thing to do some threat hunting?
Like if you purely ask me, it's not a lot of useful information that was added. Actually, there's almost no useful information for me personally. Maybe it would be useful for defenders. I don't know. Obviously, the NCSC report is a lot more useful, even if unfortunately there's no samples that you can find anywhere, I think. But the update that we are seeing here on the screen, unfortunately, not that useful to me personally.
Yeah, I think providing some guidance on like some upcoming out of support, some of the trust anchor and secure boot, which has and which hasn't, and so on. There's some useful things for maybe defenders, like you said. There's some snort rules as well, and they've gone into some pretty detailed instructions on recovering from potential compromised things, which is a thing you wrote last week. Juanito, all three of these things are basically massive and critical. What are you guys seeing in the labs there? What is the Sentinel Lab story around? A quick update on the Cisco thing.
I mean, it's the same kind of miserable hunting that comes with all of these sorts of appliance infections, because then, if you're not hitting the appliance for some kind of incident response, if you're not getting engaged into a bigger incident, what this becomes is us from the internal side of the network trying to figure out if there's any indication of lateral movement, of them trying to execute commands on endpoints, of them trying to hit certain servers that are so like, and I hate to say it, I'm just gonna guess 90% of the time that one of these appliance incidents happen, we come up empty-handed. And that's part of my frustration with the situation is something happened. Sometimes somebody literally comes and tells you something happened in this network on this date, whatever. And, sometimes because of retention policies, sometimes because of just pure visibility into whatever the fuck they're doing, it's just gone. There's just nothing for you to see. So it's a really frustrating situation, but every time this happens, we end up having to go, on the hunt and just crunch through terabytes of data looking for any possible bit of smoke. And
I thought it was fascinating. Shout out to the guys at GreyNoise. I have it up on the screen here. They had put out a report since September 4th saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of this scanning of these Cisco SA devices. A new vulnerability might be incoming. And then a month later, you get this big giant drop here. So it shows that at least we have some level of visibility, and there are some telemetry and artifacts sitting around that can give us a heads up on these things. I don't know. I mean, I'm still waiting for. We don't have full documentation on what happened with it. But I mean, it seems like this is a story that's going to stretch.
What is the fucking excuse? What is the excuse, Ryan, for not putting the link to the NCSC report? Like
that I don't understand. That I can't understand. I mean, they must have had some internal discussions, right?
It's not a competitor, right? Like,
let's go in-house at Cisco. There's a conversation happening between legal and the head of PCerts and all these people, and they're like, hey, we have this NCSC thing. What are we doing? Like, what is the conversation happening that someone says, nope, leave it out? What purpose does that serve? I can't process it.
Well, they also don't mention the malware.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the issue is that, you tell people that, our devices got infected, so it doesn't look good. It's fine to talk about vulnerabilities, scanning, things like that, but when you point directly, to the inner working of malware, maybe that's bad.
Wait, is it the inner workings, or is it the presence of the malware at all? Because let's think about this, right? They're saying there's a vulnerability, and there's a patch. And you should really, really, really rush to apply that patch. And because and at most they say there's an actor called, Arcane Door, that related to Arcane Door, that has this vulnerability. But they never mention. Wait, Kosta, just think about it. They never mention the malware, and they don't link to the NCSC report. So is Cisco just hoping that they can get past this with victims and customers just thinking that they were exposed to a possible vulnerability, but it didn't actually entail an infection into their devices? That the malware is just not a thing?
I think, the emphasis is on the vulnerability, not on the malware. So, perhaps they're just trying to shift the discussion in that direction.
The threat actor has been observed utilizing stolen credentials to make authenticated VPN connections. So it's connected to perhaps another breach with some credentials exposed somewhere.
I think that's the hope, is that they'll move on directly to this was a VPN thing. Well, let's look into this network and what other networks are potentially affected. But you're not looking at the Cisco device itself as this point of perennial vulnerability that was probably used as the stager for most of the rest of the attacks. They could just sit there and PCAP capture and then never even move from the Cisco ASA device itself, but just use what they've collected to do whatever else they need to do. And then you won't see anything ever. It just so happens that something else gets breached. It just so happens that an infection happens somewhere else, but you don't realize that it's thanks to, it's an infection brought to you by Cisco, powered by Cisco, that got you popped. I'm like, sorry if I know I ran over you, Kostin, and I don't mean to be rude. It's more that like there's a point here that I'm kind of marveling at. Does Cisco think that if they ignore the presence of the malware and they don't tell customers that these devices are being infected, that they can just pretend that this is like hey, just patch the vulnerability and rotate some creds and you're good? Like,
Kostin, you believe there's a risk of disclosing information that is way too sensitive by just acknowledging the malware? Like, I don't understand that stance at all.
It can be like from two things: a perception problem where you don't want someone to somehow think that you fail and the situation is really bad. Remember all the Apple campaigns from back in the days, like Apple doesn't get viruses, things like that. Or two, they don't really have an expertise in malware, so they're like limiting themselves, saying we are experts in vulnerabilities. We are experts in vulnerabilities, and they're like secure and logs and hardware and firmware, whatever. But we are not really experts in malware, so we are not going to touch that.
What kind of that doesn't fly, though, right? I mean, it's Cisco.
We know that's not true. We know that's not true. They were the ones who did Arcane Door. They investigated Arcane Door. They published. They know malware exists, and they've been like.
Some people listen, so like it's different organization. Like that's a Cisco Taurus, which is different from Cisco event response.
It's like 25 business units in there that nobody's talking to each other.
One thing that
everyone keeps the information from the other side.
What I learned is that even in these big companies, different teams do not cooperate. Like everybody has their own, like
deliberately
local malware collection, like private YARA rules that they don't share with the other groups. Analysis server, and there's like a lot of competition for budgets, for travel, conferences, and so on. Like this is like once you understand this and.
That's what we're seeing here. It makes more sense.
One of my friends who was working like in one of these big companies, he opened my eyes for the first time and explained like how this ecosystem works. I was like, wow. So that's how it works in big companies. But then, I realized that that's how it works everywhere.
It works,
like clusters of threat defender activity.
Yeah, it's normal in big companies. I was at Intel and on the Intel P-Cert side, and we would just see a white paper pops up somewhere on vulnerability information that came out of an Intel business unit out of Israel, and you're just like, wait a second, have we seen this? No one has seen this. So this is normal part of big company life. I'm pretty sure Juanito is neck deep in that stuff.
Yeah, but
I'm sure that in Juanito's company, this is not the case. This doesn't exist.
No. We don't have, I mean, honestly, we have our own fucking problems, like all kinds of fucking problems, but they're not to do with this, because as all of you have worked, I know because I've been with you've worked at organizations that have to deal with detection and misses and any kind of, we are much more beholden when it comes to something was vulnerable, something went wrong, because we have to answer for that, even when it is something that happens, not because of something we did, but because of some fucking appliance somewhere that is unpatched and whatever. So like we end up having to clean up all the messes after these dudes. Look, honestly, I don't have much to say to Cisco as a company. Like this is all disappointment all the way down. And like what I don't understand is, clearly something has changed in the Cisco leadership around the mentality with security, and they are not they're not doing themselves any favors, but more than anything, they're burning up a lot of goodwill and things that they had accomplished in the past that I think is very strange, right? Like, look at this. They are pointing to Arcane Door. They did Arcane Door. So something has changed from between the time that Cisco worked on things like Arcane Door to this Ray Initiator Line Viper thing in Cisco, not out in the world, in Cisco. They have changed their approach in a way that I don't think is good. And frankly, I don't know who advises them on the government relations side of things, but whomever is handling their gov relations, whoever's handling their IC relations, is not very good at their job, because letting the government be this upset and having to not just like basically NCSC felt that it was appropriate to put this out, antagonizing a company like Cisco means that there was a breakdown in communications and in their ability to feel that they can rely on Cisco as a vendor of epic proportions. So I don't know who handles their IC stuff. I don't know who is out there telling them how to handle the relationship with the IC. But, you know, far be it for me to tell Cisco what to do with their people. But this is fucking dumb. This is mishandled. This is not good work. And Cisco has done better. They have a better playbook on hand, and they're leaving it behind based on somebody thinking they know better, and that's somebody coming off like a bit of a fucking idiot. So I'm just saying, like, get your shit together, people.
Let me point out another reality. CISA, our cybersecurity agency, issued an emergency directive around this very issue. Identify and mitigate potential compromise of Cisco devices with a bunch of details. And they don't link to this NCSC report, or they don't link to the NCSC malware or point to anything whatsoever again. I mean, it's like you have a third-party government agency whose job is to do this, to kind of connect all the dots and give you this sort of guidance, and we don't even get it out of CISA.
Well, I wonder if CISA is doing that because they're trying not to antagonize Cisco. And that's my point. That's my fucking point here. There's some shenanigans at play, and they're fucking dumb shenanigans, and it's why I don't want to let them go. Because it's not just the corporate reality. Somebody thinks they're playing 4D chess with government organizations, and they're just looking fucking dumb, and it's obvious to all of us. It's fucking obvious. I have no inside track on this. I'm not in the room. I am not in the room. I'm just looking at it from the outside going, this is fucking stupid, and you as a company know better because I've seen you do better.
And our
Not very long ago.
And our nation's cybersecurity agency can't be the checkbox for this. It's just so infuriating all around, which reminds me.
It is, and CIS has done that a million fucking times too, which is why we stand the NCSC in a different fucking country, and thank God for them. Because if they didn't do this, we would have no. Okay, let's imagine that. Let's imagine that fucking counterfactual. Imagine the situation where we do this, and like this Cisco ASA thing happens, and you have the bullshit from CISA, and you have the bullshit from Cisco, and no NCSC report. And I ask you, would we even have this if the NCSC were not releasing their report?
It would be just another Ivanti advisory. Yes.
So we would have just gotten some tack bullshit of some maybe whatever, please apply a patch, and they never would have told any of us, including a bunch of U.S. government victims. Like,
Shout out to the NCSC.
Shout out to the NCSC,
Oliver,
1,000 fucking percent. As always, thank Christ for you guys. And what the fuck is happening at Cisco and at CISA?
Why, I can tell you one thing that's happening at Cisco and CISA. A Joe Men's story in Washington Post yesterday that says the government shutdown has gutted CISA at a weird time. Government shutdown has furloughed most of its already trimmed down stuff in the government shutdown, and there's a decades-old law that gives companies leeway to collaborate that's expired. So there's like a amalgam of things happening around Cisco related to the government, CISA related to the government shutdown, that's obviously going to be affecting all of this shit. So is this government shutdown and CISA and the implications of that top of mind thing in Washington, D.C.?
I think out of all the things that this government shutdown affects, that is not necessarily top of mind. I'm not saying that I mean, I don't know that it should be. I think there's an even bigger fear that the shutdown will also allow for greater firings to happen in the meantime, right? Like that's part of the problem with all this chaos is, also what effects take place and what you do in the meantime. So I think a lot of people are just scared about even bigger, broader, problematic things. At the same time, I think the bigger issue with the shutdown, which is it's an unintended thing that happens with the shutdown, is that this CISA 2015 or whatever expires along with the measures that they were trying to push that fix alongside of it, and that's actually problematic in that it gives another bullet. Another arrow in the quiver of the lawyers who say, oh, we are no longer covered by the liability protections of CISA 2015, so we shouldn't and can't share anything with the government because we're not protected by virtue of doing so. So you have yet another reason for people to kind of, I don't think that CISA 2015 was perfect, and the fact that it's necessary, I think, speaks to an even bigger regulatory failure, but it was the way to at least get all these people in a Slack and to tell the lawyers to like chill the fuck out just a little bit so that we can tell government what we need to tell them, and that's gone. So, I just expect a lot more bullshit somehow that it was just looking for an excuse and now it's found it.
Anything to add to this? Like this government shutdown doesn't play in Europe at all, right, Costin? I mean, this stuff is just small American politics, right?
Look, for those of us who are not familiar, can you explain what is a government shutdown and what does it mean? Let's say I work for the government. What does that mean for me as an employee of the government?
Go ahead.
Like in 5 sentences, just because I'm probably not the only one.
No, and I'm probably not the best person to explain this, but essentially, our government has been having, we have politicized the budgeting process of the U.S. government to the point where, for quite a while, the U.S. government has been running on what are called continuing resolutions, which is this idea of like, we haven't agreed on a budget, but we don't want everything to stop working. So we're going to come up with this like bullshit patch that says, here's how much money we're going to put out to keep the funding going for all these different government initiatives in the absence of that that budget. So, and it's not like you didn't have the money sitting there before, or I mean, maybe you don't, right? Like the U.S. government's like $30 trillion in debt. So, so what you're doing is essentially extending the authority for spending that money, and Congress controls that. So, if they don't get their shit together, then there's no continuing resolution. The authority to spend the money is gone. So all of a sudden, what you have is a government that comes to a fucking standstill because, apart from essential services like absolute, this cannot stop or people die, or whatever the fuck you want to call that standard, everybody else is furloughed. You go home. Contractors go home. Like, you don't work for the government right now. And if you're a contractor, you don't even get back pay. So like those people are just home.
When you say go home, no more salary. That's what you're saying. Like no more salary. So let's say I work at CISA. I'm an analyst at CISA. What does it mean for me? Do I still get my salary, or do I go to work? What does it mean?
My understanding, and I have not been in this position, so it's kind of hard to know. But my understanding is, if you're a government employee and you're not considered essential, you go home, and when they open up again, you get back pay. But if you're a contractor, you go home and you don't get back pay, and you may not get brought back, which is particularly relevant for CISA, where a lot of the talent at CISA is there as a contractor, and also for the intelligence community, which I'm sure the IC, has its own loopholes and workarounds. But this is a fucking shit show. Like, you literally take everyone in the government, like, forget cyber, the whole fucking government, and you go, 70% of you go home, like, and we'll figure out what stops getting done. And we'll pick up the pieces when Congress gets their shit together. Not together enough to pass a budget, just together enough to get another continuing resolution so that we can kick this can down the road another year and another year and another year. Because it's the only way that we've decided to do like budgetary negotiations. This is a good enough gun to people's heads that I don't think Congress actually wants a budget. I think they want to keep this continuing resolution bullshit going so that every year they have an excuse to put a gun to everyone's heads and go, okay, what actually matters? But what if I take this? What if I it's insane. It's fucking crazy.
So, if
Don't
I
ask
understand
any more
correctly,
questions about you, Esko.
At the end of, okay, so as a government employee, it's a government shutdown, I go home, like, yay, party, like whatever, beer, hookah, whatever. And let's say when the government shutdown ends, and it will end, like it always ends, not only I get like money back for that period of beers
I
and
didn't have
hookahs
to
and
work.
everything, and I don't have to work that amount like back somehow. Like we just
You're
continue
rooting for
working.
shutdowns,
So
right?
this is like amazing.
That's the most European shit I've ever heard. This is the.
This is amazing.
That
Can
is
we
the
have
most
it in
European.
Europe?
I mean, I'm surprised you don't. Isn't that what summers are in Europe? You just,
This is called
I
siesta.
thought that's what summer was. Yeah, you guys take 3 months to go to, hang out in Greece with the people who are perennially doing that, and then you come back and you get paid anyways.
All right, we're at a 2-hour mark, and this has been like a weird episode, so we're going to close it with some shout-outs.
It's a weird fucking episode.
We need to answer all the questions from our listeners. We need to
There's
answer questions. Yeah,
You want to take a question? I have a question from Greg Lesnovich. If you could cost in specifically for you, and I know Greg wants a full cost in episode on your kit, but his question is, if you could go back in time to the start of your time at Great and bring one piece of modern tech with you, whether it's internet scan data, PDNS, Yara X capabilities, what do you think over time has had the most impact?
So if I can take only one, the issue would be to re-implement it like 2008. So with the 2008 technology, if I could, I think I would do like a Geppetto style plugin for IDA Pro that helps you with code analysis with an LLM. But I don't think that with 2008 technology, I would be able to implement an LLM. Like with my knowledge, what I know about LLMs and with the hardware from 2008, I don't know if I could actually implement an LLM. But what I could do for sure, guaranteed, I can tell you now, is code similarity. Knowing what I know now, going back to 2008, I can do code similarity, and then I can apply code similarity to all these big discoveries.
You would have invested more in that earlier.
Into code similarity, yeah, because it helps like connect cases, speed up attribution, clustering, families jumping from one case to another. So that would be like a game changer, I think. The others, I think they existed one way or another. So like the most valuable that didn't exist would be AI or /LLMs for code analysis and maybe report writing. How many reports, like how many hundreds of hours we invested into writing reports by hand, that could be done by LLMs for sure. Code analysis, but I mean, code similarity is probably doable.
Got it. Juanito, you got a thought on this?
One would say.
Yes, because he came in 2008 a little fresher to the space. You were already an old AV guy. Juanito, which one do you think would stand out as something you would have invested much into earlier, knowing what you know now?
I mean, I came in much later than that, but I was really excited to hear Kostin say the Geppetto LLM thing. I would probably, like, the code similarity stuff kicked off right around the time that I was like really getting into the technical part of this, and was a passion for me. Frankly, I still think most people need to invest into the code similarity thing. Like, it is not being used. at all or effectively or as well as it could. Like it's hard not to do the LLM thing just because to Kostin's point, I think that if Greg's question is like basically magical thinking, I can just take something I have now and have it then, with no questions asked about like the tech and like the feasibility
Right.
of it all. It's hard not to like go back with the LLMs because what we had, the tight loop that I would have wanted to have is we were able to do a map reduce type like distributed operations, and we were able to do decompilation, disassembly already, and we were able to do some kind of code similarity analysis. What we couldn't do was instrument what the LLMs do now of like a good enough description or assessment of what the code was doing in those fragments to then make that a part of that code similarity loop. And like that was the hot moment for code similarity. And if we had had that piece, we would have been able to have a far more like push it off to computation way of scaling out code similarity to actually being code like fragment classification, and to then be able to have it be less of a brute force big hammer thing that we then had to analyze the results of, and have it be more of like a cataloging and categorization process that we then big numbered our way through. So kind of hijacking Kostin's answer, but yeah, I mean, if we'd had that shit when I was trying to learn to reverse, are you kidding me? It's fucking amazing.
Kostin, do you get the urge to go back and revisit old campaigns, old APT reports with newer tech now and wonder how it could have been improved, what you may have missed, what are some things that are still hanging on the bones? Do you get that urge, and is that a worthwhile endeavor for our labs to take on?
All the time. I mean, paleontology is my favorite pastime, and I hear from some sources that there's something dropping soon, like one of these paleontology researchers. I'm not gonna point any fingers, but that's what I heard, that there's something cool dropping soon. Finally.
From
Where should I look for it? On TikTok or just the regular internet?
To your left, or like depending, like to your right, more like.
I don't know which side I'm looking
Ryan
at.
should be looking to his left.
It's a TLP black thing. It's
there you go.
No, not from me. Like definitely not from me. But I hear there's like some cool paleontology stuff dropping.
Okay. Yeah.
What can you say? Something coming? When?
We don't want to blow it.
I don't want to blow it. We don't know where. We don't even want to say who. Where?
Yeah, some researcher wants to reach out for pre-briefings, things like that. But like I do this all the time. I revisit all stories, but unfortunately I can't find anything further. And I tell you why. Because for that you need some huge old historical malware databases, and this is
lost forever.
This is becoming lost. Yeah, I see more and more things. I just let me tell you one story. Andreas Marx, if you heard his names, he founded AV Test like back in the 90s.
Old testing guy, right?
Yeah, old
German
testing guy in Germany, absolutely. And he was collecting malware samples like for decades. Tons and tons. You had like programs to collect and swap, share malware samples with all sorts of different antivirus companies. And he's been doing this for decades. And he recently sold AV Test to another company, and I met him at Virus Bulletin, and I asked him like, what happened to your malware collection? How big was it when you sold the company? And he said something was 1.5 billion samples. Just imagine 1.5 billion samples going back to 1998 or something. That is a treasure. And the moment that people start training LLMs, AIs, whatever, on malware to be more efficient, like for instance, writing Yara rules or understanding code similarity, everyone will need such a collection. So whoever bought that collection from Andreas together with the company made like a fantastic investment, I think. the raw sources of data, the raw sources of malware will become increasingly valuable as the access to VirusTotal becomes increasingly expensive and less people can afford it. And whoever has the most data, I think, will be able to leverage that with their models, with their technologies to create better things, basically. So, yeah, that's probably the reason why some of these old stories don't necessarily generate new stuff, because it would be fantastic to have more old dinosaur bones being passed around.
And lost samples is the biggest deterrent to getting that done in some sort of efficient, effective way, right?
Lost samples is terrible. Like when you know like a hash that was in some story, and maybe you even had a sample back in the days, but you don't have it anymore. Like it's one of the saddest things. Yeah.
All right, let's close the show with some shout outs. Juanito, I believe next week you're heading over to San Diego for Offensive AI Con, this Dreadnought conference. You got any shout outs to close the show with?
Well, I mean, I'm super excited for Offensive AI Con, like I said, and folks are out there.
What is that about?
Well, honestly, I'm going to find out, because it's the first iteration of this conference from our friends at Dreadnought and a few other folks. Kristen Del Rosso, some others have like helped put this thing together. It's the first time. It's another one of these that I consider kind of a sister conference to LabsCon. You know, PivotCon and Offensive AI Con are ones that are born off our alumni, and so we're really looking forward to what this is. But it's the first one. So we're gonna go figure out what, what's in the agenda, what's actually being done there, and well, I have no idea. So I'm gonna go check it out, and I'll come back. I think we're gonna have to record on a Saturday so that I can come back and properly kind of fill you guys in on some of it. And then I did want to bring something up as a proper shout out, but on behalf of our dear friend of the show, Silas Cutler. He has put together a pretty interesting initiative. So Silas, for a while, has been sort of scanning for secrets and API keys that are being leaked, whether it's like being hosted on sites or being put on VT or being put on GitHub or wherever. And he's gone through the extremely hard work of trying to get those keys burned and sort of black hole reissued. And it's a thing that I've admired his willingness to deal with the bullshit that goes into doing that, because you'd be surprised how few places want to rotate those keys or actually acknowledge that they're burned. And a lot of it is like a phone call type thing. Like you have to go to somebody and say, hey, this thing is due, can you do whatever? So I think a lot of people run into these and then don't know what to do with them and then leave them there. So instead, he's put together this keydrop.io, which already is auto-reporting keys to Google and OpenAI and Stripe. And the shout out here is actually for other organizations that may want to also provide an API or something that just puts them on the receiving end of these. And essentially, somebody is out here giving vendors a free way to, reissue and get notified of these burned keys. And they're not asking for keys. They're not asking for people to contribute work. They're saying, come give us a way to report to you automatically. So for the folks out there, your Microsofts, your whomever else is that, like these database vendors, whoever it is that's reliant on API keys, Anthropic, whomever, hit up Silas Cutler on Twitter, on Blue Sky, check out keydrop.io, and get on the bandwagon, man. Like somebody's trying to do you a huge fucking favor. So the least you could do is just sign yourself up to receive.
Shout out to Silas, of course, as always. Costin, close the show quickly. What do you have?
Yeah, shout outs to Silas. By the way, I noticed for a brief moment you showed that to contact him, send an email to keydrop@onlyscans.net. So maybe a good opportunity to pitch his OnlyScans service, which is another very interesting one.
He keeps it very close to the chest. I think that one's like, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'll leave it to him. I'll leave it to him.
Obviously, he gives a tip, like at least that this thing exists. So that's an interesting one for sure. Like shout outs to all the people who are okay in my book, and no shout outs to those who are not okay in my
Not okay.
Great way to finish it. Thank you guys. Thanks to chat to checking in. Thanks to Federico and all the guys for checking in and just hanging out with us on the live show. Costin, all the very best to you. Juanito, you will probably do the show late next week because of Offensive AI Con. With that, everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, guys.